Hi, welcome to Dee's Media World. Today we're doing the fifth episode in the Inuyasha's review series, The Aristocratic Assassin Sesshomaru. So Sesshomaru we're introduced to him for the first time, and he is Inuyasha's half-brother. They have the same dad, but a different mother. And it's pretty clear because Inuyasha has a human mother, and Sesshomaru hates humans. So the episode kind of begins with Sesshomaru saying that he's looking for the Fang, uh, and we're not sure exactly what he was referring to, but he is looking for his dad's tomb, and something is waiting for him if he finds it. Actually written down some type of riddle or poem or something. He says the Fang is what I seek, and then Shishomaru basically wants more power and stuff, and he's kind of like talking to himself, which is kind of funny, but that's kind of what the show is. It can be funny even when it's trying to be sort of serious. um, we meet Jockin, who is basically Sesshomaru's lackey, and he uses the staff with the two heads to try to. This apparently helps him out, and gives him idea of the direction of where the Fang is or the tomb is, and he actually they come across these warriors who are just sitting out chilling, very confident, cocky kind of guys. And long story short, Sesshomaru kills one of them, but they're such a waste of his time that he just has Jock and kill the rest of them with the staff of the two heads. We also meet Myoga for the first time, and we see that he's like on his way to Inuyasha, and that's also a new character who keeps coming. But he's not in every episode, but he is a kind of a recurring character. He comes in kind of every time you almost forget about him or you just forgot about him. But anyway, it cuts back to Sesshomaru and Jockin and stuff, and they get the boat they want. And um, Jockin mentions to Sesshomaru that maybe you could ask Inuyasha if he knows where the tomb is, and just the mention of Inuyasha's name pisses Sesshomaru off, and he practically kills Jockin. Not that the Sesshomaru has like he's a very calm guy or something like that. Like not that he doesn't get angry easily, but just you could just tell just by the way his face changed that he didn't even want to hear about Inuyasha. But basically, Jockin tells him that Inuyasha is still alive. It has awoken, so to speak, from the spell he was under or been pinned from the tree and stuff. So maybe he should go ask him. We switch back to Kagome, and Kagome is coming back from the well from her time with stuff, and she actually has a different outfit on. Which in the beginning of the show, you see her in like maybe 3 or 4 different outfits, but then like after the first couple episodes, she just is in her school uniform all the time. This goes back to the point I was saying last week how only certain characters or certain things can go through the well, because Kagome can go back in her time and get like bring her bicycle, bring clothes, bring food, bring whatever she wants, but she can't actually bring like people through. And I think that's interesting how selective it is. There's not, because the show is very has like mystery and magic and stuff like that. No one really questions this, I guess. Like, why can she bring stuff through the well, but she couldn't bring like her family through the well, for example. But anyway, she does another recap of what's happened in the past 4 episodes and stuff, and nothing we haven't already seen. Just sort of like if you're slow, I guess, and you need a reminder of what you just missed, or if you're watching that show week by week, how Adult Swim used to. Actually, no, Adult Swim had it every day. It was like 2 episodes a night because the show was so long. But anyway, um, another recap, she accidentally runs over Myoga, not even noticing. Uh, Kagome tries to tend Inuyasha's wounds, and it's kind of like this funny joke because Kaede is telling the kids like, oh, Inuyasha and Kagome are gonna go find the jewel shards and stuff, so don't worry about it, leave it to them. I just hope they can get along and stuff. And then like some little kid says like, oh, it looks like they like each other, or it looks like they're already getting along, and Kagome's like on top of Inuyasha tent trying to take his shirt off, which looks very suggestive, but clearly she's just trying to clean his wounds. And Inuyasha shows her, hey, I'm not like you, as he said many times by this point. He's a half demon, so he actually healed. Not only did he heal very quickly, but he also didn't have a scar left behind, which is quite amazing for someone who's half demon. Like, imagine what a full demon can do if you have that kind of power, just half demon. Let's see. Myoga shows up. Kagome even though Mayoga is clearly talking to Inuyasha and speaking and stuff, she still accidentally sprays Mayoga with like some type of. She actually has bug spray with her. Like there's a bunch of stuff in her bag, so she brings bug spray and sprays Mayoga with it. So Inuyasha and Mayoga talk a little bit, and um, what Mayoga's I guess telling him about asking him about the tomb or telling him how Sesshomaru's looking. No, he doesn't tell him that Sesshomaru's looking for the tomb, but he does mention the tomb and how he's supposed to be protecting it, even though he doesn't know exactly where it is. He was protect. He doesn't know exactly where Inuyasha's father's remains are. He knows where the tomb is, I guess, but he doesn't know where the remains are. No, neither does Inuyasha. And we'll find out soon enough. And they mentioned a little bit about Inuyasha's family for the first time, pretty soon in the show, I would say. And we learned that his mother died. And we also learned later on that she died when he was young. What age he was, how she died, when she died exactly, what she died from, why she died, we never find out. And I can just tell you that right now. It seems to me she died of natural causes because oh, that was something on my computer. Uh, she seems to die of natural causes because later on in the episode, when they do the whole thing with Sesshomaru using the dead mom situation, she apologizes for dying. And he's like, oh, it's okay. I was just a kid. Like, she must have died from a sickness or something. But Inuyasha's mother is human and apparently kind of like a princess figure. So it's kind of clear that she was kind of fragile or something. Like she wasn't a warrior, so she died probably from some type of natural causes. Um, and anyway, Kagome wonders if Inuyasha hated his mother because she was half demon. I mean, because she was human. And I found that an interesting thought process because, yeah, Inuyasha does, he wants to be a full demon. Does he resent his mother for being human? And as we later learn, is that no, not really. He loved his mother, and he might have been hurt that she died young, or he was sad or something like that. But he never hated her. In fact, she was the only person, and I don't remember if the next episode addresses this. Probably does, but that was the only person he had for a long time. So yeah, I don't think he hated his mother, had any resentment towards her for being human. Um, Anyway, Kagome was going to talk to Inuyasha, but Sesshomaru shows up, and he being being super cold blooded, has this demon holding what seems to be Inuyasha's mother. And at first, Inuyasha and Kagome are like, "Nah, that's not his mom," because they just talked coincidentally, they just talked about his mother and how she's dead. So how could she possibly be back alive? But Jocken tricks them by saying like, oh, well, Sesshomaru had no problem getting his mother from the dead, getting your mother back from the dead. So, this is your mom. Do you not want to save her and stuff like that? And what's funny about that is that Sesshomaru does have that ability. He just doesn't. As we learn later with the Tenseiga that he has. We learn about that way later in the show, but I'll mention it now. But the Tenseiga cannot revive someone that far in the past. Like Inuyasha's mother has probably been dead. Let's see, Inuyasha's been pinned in the tree for 50 years. So let's say 70 years, because I don't know how long between when his mom died and when Inuyasha met Kikyo. So let's say she's been dead for 60, 70 years or so. He couldn't bring someone back to dead who's been dead that long. It actually is only a shorter amount of time, but I do think that's kind of funny because it's like, yeah, that's kind of foreshadowing. Um, any case, we, the audience, officially learned that Sesshomaru is Inuyasha's brother. And you can kind of tell they have some similar features. They both have kind of the dog look. They're the only dog demons really in the show. So that kind of helps if you're wondering, well, what do they have in common? They're both the only dog demons, really. Inuyasha does fall for the trick that that's his mother. And I have to admit, he went from like 0 to 100 with it. Because at first he's like, no way, that's not my mom. And then the minute Jocken lies to him and says like, oh, Sesshomaru can bring people from the dead, Inuyasha's like, mother, basically, that's my mother. Which I was like, oh, I feel sorry for him because it's impossible. Even in this show, it's practically impossible to do that. At least 60 years later, possibly 60 years at least. Um, Inuyasha should have been suspicious that that was his mother. The moment she did this, had this like orb of light that like engulfed them and took them to this other world, because then I would have been like, okay, who are you really? Like, you look like my mom, you sound like my mom, but you can't be my mom, can you? She was a human, she wasn't a demon. And they take them back, she takes them to this world that is very pretty world. It's very pretty, and they kind of have a conversation, and she apologizes for dying. Essentially, that's what she's apologizing for, and not being able to be a mom to him anymore and stuff. And Inuyasha is like, it's okay, and it's actually kind of sweet and sad because this is our first time seeing kind of a softer side to Inuyasha. It's not that soft necessarily, but you could tell he did love his mom and respected his mom, even though he probably doesn't remember her that well. And speaking of parents, we learned that Inuyasha didn't actually know his dad that well either, because his dad died not too long after he was born. I know the third film discusses this more in depth, but yeah, his dad. So both parents are dead, and they both died when he was a child. Um, we also learned that it was Jockin's idea to take Inuyasha's mom and sort of use her as ploy or decoy, whatever you want to call it, in order to figure out where the tomb is, because they think Inuyasha has it. So Sesshomaru, while he did not come up with the idea, is actually above him. He says he threatens Jockin's life. He's like, oh, if your plan fails, this ridiculous plan that I would never actually do, but since you brought me down to that level of doing it, if it fails, I'll kill you. I'm like, dang. You almost seem happy to say that, like, you will die. Um, and the episode ends with Kagome not being able to move. Like, she's been brought to the world too with Inuyasha, but she can't move, and she also can't talk. And she can see that Inuyasha's mother doesn't have a reflection. So we'll find out, I guess, in the next episode, what went down with that, and how's Kagome going to get out of that situation, because Inuyasha's kind of in trouble right now. Overall, I think this is a really good episode. There's two more Sesshomaru episodes after this, and this is sort of introduction to him. I like it. It's clearly meant to be, part one, so to speak, set up what things are going to happen, and then answers will be answered later. Sesshomaru comes into the show, which is great. He's my favorite male character on the show, so it's good to see him and see kind of what he is in the beginning of the show and how he treats other characters or treats people or treats Inuyasha and stuff. Kagome, I said earlier, she can, she's cool. I like Kagome. I like that. I like how gutsy Kagome is, or how she can be quick on her feet sometimes, and we'll see that a little bit more in the next couple episodes. Overall, it's a good episode. Nothing much to say else about it, so I'll just see you guys for the next one. And of course, as always, the episode will be in the description box, and where I have the episode so you guys can watch it before you watch this video. So awesome. See you later.